So welcome you all here. My name's Chris Sauerzopf with world-class title in SocialMLS. Real quick, just a couple housekeeping items. If you haven't been here before, the restrooms are down the hall there to the right. If you're not familiar with this place, it's Rev1 Ventures. It's a tech accelerator in partnership with the state of Ohio in local industries. Startup companies come here to test their ideas and build some businesses, and we've used it here as a space for the last few months. They're also an investor in SocialMLS, so we're always grateful to use their space. And I wanted to just take a second and have you all help me introduce our guest here today, Michael Jones. Thank you, Michael, for your time.
Thank you very much. Let me be very candid with you. This is going to be easier than I expected because I'm looking at friends or people that I know. So thank you for being here. Thank you for making it a little easier for me.
Yeah, for sure. So this is the way we do is it's a really casual, fun conversation where you have an opportunity to share your story with, we have some newer agents here today who can hopefully learn from some of the things you've been able to go through the business, and some people that already know you, but maybe there's some new opportunities to learn of your story today. So that's really the idea behind this. That's why we started doing it. And again, I appreciate your time in being here and meeting with us so far. So let's get going. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, Central Ohio originally?
I am. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I have attended high school here, St. Charles, through 12th grade, and went to Howard University for college in Washington, D.C. Essentially my only time outside of Columbus, other than travels here and there.
You came back after college. What was your major?
Business with a focus in accounting.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
So interesting answer to that. At the time, I wanted to be an attorney. So most of you know I love to argue, right? Imagine that. So we thought I would be a great attorney, which I play one on TV from time to time, joking. And so at the time, there was a oversupply, if you will, of attorneys. And so somebody that I respect a great deal said to me, you need to have something else under your belt. Don't just have, a JD. You need to have some other specialty to make yourself more marketable as you move forward. And so that evolved into me having a desire to go into law, but wanting to kind of work for myself. And I guess I was pretty fortunate to be able to take a job. I worked for my family when I first came home. And then I got married. So life happens. We all know life happens. And I was moving along in my life in such a way that I thought, it's time to be married. And I shared with my best friend yesterday, so many people make that mistake. Everybody doesn't do things as they should. Timing is everything. I got married too early, first and second time. So again, we could talk about that for hours, but I got to a point and I said, it's time for you to be married. And got married, and then I felt like I needed a real job, and got into insurance, which some of you may or may not know, and enjoyed it tremendously, and kind of talked to another agent. I work at Coldwell Banker, and I had an agent interview today, and she kind of asked questions. How did you know this was the right company? How did you know real estate was your career path? Interesting how I got to that, but I was selling insurance. And the way that I knew that I needed to make a decision one way or the other is I was so busy. We're all busy now, right? And I was just pulled in so many different directions and so busy with everything that I did. I said, I can't do this. I can't do the insurance. I can't do real estate. And insurance, I looked at it as like sell somebody a policy, you make them happy. But there's no long-term ongoing relationship that you create with that gives you purpose. People buy insurance because they have to. Some people buy a life insurance policy because it's prudent, but then that's it. Real estate gives us an opportunity to actually engage people to buy their first home, help their kids buy a kiddie condo when they go to college, help them move on to the next stage of their life when they're empty nesters. So it's an ongoing, need. So I enjoyed that opportunity, and I think I came to the conclusion. I bought my first house when I was 21. And that was kind of fun. I remember MLS books and all of the people doing the inappropriate things that they weren't supposed to do, like giving me the MLS book. I had a friend that sold real estate. It was just fun. It was fun, and I enjoyed it. I enjoy every aspect of the real estate industry. I'm not tired of it now, but I'm not as excited about it as I was once upon a time when it was new to me. But it was just such a natural, organic progression for me. It was just a perfect fit.
What do you get excited about in the business today?
Today, what made me exciting was I had a meeting with Sean, and we were talking about next level stuff, as I would call it. How do I look at myself in the next 5 to 10 years? Again, looking at new people in the industry, they're very hungry, and I'm hungry, but they're very interested in it at a elementary level, and it's just a different game. And then when you've been in it 20 years, you look at it not necessarily as what is my exit plan, but I can't keep doing things, and many people in my office hear me say this, I can't do what I did when I was 24 at the same level that I'm doing it at 44. So again, with Sean today, we looked at not an exit strategy, but more so just a different level of doing business.
So I don't want to jump too far ahead, but how long were you doing the insurance gig?
I think I got my insurance license, life, health, property, and casualty, in 1994. And I think I segued into real estate full-time, no more insurance, and that wasn't intentional. It was intentional, but how it evolved was kind of unfortunate. But I think I did it in the year 2000, 1999 or 2000. I just let go of insurance as a job and actually just started doing real estate full-time. And about 2 years later, so we all do CE class, and CE is also required for insurance, and I thought I had it done. And 2 years later, after I thought I had it done, they said, oh, we didn't receive your CE. And at that point, I just said, well, what's the point? You know what I mean? I never wanted to lose a license. Once you have it, you want to maintain it as much as possible. But at that point, I just said, 2 years later, I can't do it.
So let's talk about that period of your, when you just got started in the business. Where were you? How did you make that transition? Can you take us back there and talk a little bit about that?
I can't, you know, you and I talked before about this. I can't tell you any miraculous stories or any kind of earth-shattering stories.
Let's make one up.
I'm not that creative. But I can tell you about a real pivotal point. And it was the point when I was selling insurance. And I guess there's enough people in this room that remember pagers. You guys are old enough to remember pagers. I had a pager, and I'm sitting in a meeting with insurance clients all day, you know, sitting in an office, and I was very fortunate that I worked with a company and a person that I had the flexibility. I've always been fortunate to have the flexibility to do everything that I needed to do and wanted to do, and that's a real blessing. So my client, probably one of my first 10 sales, a person that I knew from elementary school. And she's just blowing my pager up. And eventually, you know, after I'm done with a couple appointments, I call her and I said, you're not my only client. It was the worst thing that I could have ever said. And it took me probably 5 years to realize that it was the worst thing that I said. And I eventually got to her and apologized. But it was an eye-opening experience to say, even if they're not your only client, which we know they can't be. We can't survive like that as realtors. But they need to feel that they are. And that I learned. That was a very pivotal point for me. So I appreciate the opportunity to learn from experience, mistakes, however you want to call it. But that was a pivotal point for me. And I think that was kind of when I realized I'm not able to service, and I'm huge on service. I like to over-deliver. I don't over-promise, but I certainly over-deliver. And I realized that you can't continue to deliver to all of these people on the level that you're expecting to deliver effectively. If you continue to do this, you need to make a decision. And as I shared with you earlier, real estate seemed to be the more rewarding, not just financially, but just to look in somebody's eye buying a house. They're not as excited about getting insurance on their new Mazda, right, Sean?
So you make the jump. Who did you consult with, or who did you go to work for? Who were some early mentors in your career?
I don't know that I really consulted with anybody, But, I mean, you guys know I don't really look for advice from a lot of people. I just do things. But I first moved to Century 21 Joe Walker. Joe Walker was an amazing man, and I have a great deal of respect for who he was, have a great amount of affection for his family, and what they offered to me. Again, I shared with a new agent today, I'm relationship oriented. You guys know that. That's why I choose you for title in many cases. It's because of the relationship that we have. And Joe was just a good person. I won't say he was the best businessman in town, but he was successful, and I attribute most of that to probably being because he was such a great person. So started with Joe, or excuse me, I started with, let me back up. I didn't start with Joe. I started with a guy named Gene Brockmeyer, Century 21 Brockmeyer and Associates. Coincidentally, things circling back, Byron Brockmeyer just joined Coldwell Banker a month ago. So I'm seeing an old familiar face in my new space. But again, Gene Brockmeyer was somebody who, he was in Dublin. I was in Southeast Columbus, the Bexley-Berwick area. And people always wondered, well, why would you go to Dublin for a broker? Why would you choose somebody like that? And it was a relationship. Gene said, I don't care what you do. He was an old, you know, not fly by the seat of his pants, but just a very relaxed personality. And he said, you know, if you want to sell real estate part-time, that's okay with me. And that fit very well with where I was. I was selling insurance. I had a job. So started with Gene Brockmeyer. Fast forward, he sold the company, formed his own just Brockmeyer Associates, went away from the franchise, Century 21. So I stayed. The new owners were people that I worked with. You know, they were agents at the office. And got into a bit of, I wouldn't call it a conflict. There was a personality conflict between me and one of the owners. And he's since left the real estate business, so it was probably a legitimate conflict. But I just said, well, this isn't working out for me so well. Why don't I go to another Century 21? It was part of the same family that I was familiar with and comfortable with. And it was Joe Walker and Associates. And then going from there, April 1st, 2009, April Fool's Day, I saw a pattern with the brokerage. Again, and I say this very affectionately for Joe Walker, great person. But he wasn't of like mind. You know, he had 5 offices that spanned from Delaware, Sunbury, Westerville, Gahanna area, 161, and Reynoldsburg. And I just thought, well, why aren't you at 4 corners of Central Ohio? Why are you just in this linear pattern? You know, how does that work? How are you successful? He was, you know, just because of, again, who he was. And then I saw changes in his operation. You know, he was aging, so he looked to his descendants or his granddaughter's husband. I thought, you know, he would obviously replace Joe at some point, taking over the company. And they just had different business philosophies. They were looking to head kind of southeast, and they were excited about going to Lancaster and, you know, advertising in areas that weren't necessarily conducive to the kind of business that I was doing. So I said, well, something's going to happen here. I said, you know, I'm comfortable with this family, which we look at as the NRT family or the Realogy family of companies, including Coldwell Banker, ERA, et cetera. And I said, I'm comfortable with this family. Well, how about if I just look to see what opportunities there are there? And I started doing that in probably late 2008, early 2009. And, you know, kind of, I'm a big planning person. So it's difficult to make a move like that, especially if you have business that you're working with. So I staged this whole thing, and that's why it was April 1st. It was just a very calculated process. Interesting story with that. I planned to go to Coldwell Banker in the Bexley area. A good friend of mine, Mark Krause, was the manager at the time. And it was kind of decided. I said, Coldwell Banker is the same as Century 21 in respect to relocation and all of the systems for the most part. So I said it'll be a comfortable, easy transition for me. And I went to a Midtown meeting. And who was here that asked me about Keith? Did somebody ask me about Keith? Okay. So I went to this Midtown meeting because I had a listing in German Village. And here came this guy, Keith. We love Keith, right? I said, who is this guy? I'm sitting here trying to promote a house, and he's telling me about Coldwell Banker. I didn't come here for this. I came to promote this listing. And he was like, well, I'm going to make sure that the agents in my office help you sell this house. I said, okay, whatever. And, you know, just kind of moving along. And so I go to, he says, I want to have lunch or dinner or something with you. I want to talk to you. So I said, okay, I'll get back to you. I went to Mark and I said, well, who is this guy? Do I really want to do this? He said, just tell him you're going to come here to my office in Bexley and he'll understand. So I followed Mark's directive and I went to Keith, and I didn't say that. I listened. And this is where I'll tell you, I guess here's the lesson here. Listen. Always be ready to observe. I listened to what he said, and it gave me an opportunity to pause and reflect. I said, we have people, and I'm not going to mention any names. I've already talked to you about how perceivably cliquish the Bexley area can be, and I kind of fit into that. And I said, well, do I want to go here and work? These are my friends, et cetera. And I said, well, there's also some challenges that I have with kind of the perception of markets. In the Bexley market, it's presumptive that you work in Bexley. That may not be the case, but that's kind of the presumption. So I said, I certainly don't just work in Bexley. I sell in Bexley, but it's not exclusive. I said, this metro office has tentacles that go everywhere. I said, maybe it makes sense to consider looking at a place that doesn't really tie to a neighborhood, subdivision, municipality, et cetera. And while the Bexley office is geographically closer to my home, it made more sense for me to go to the metro office. So I thank Keith for the opportunity. God puts people in your path at the right time. And I had the pause in my life to be able to listen to what he had to say because, again, it was a courtesy meeting. It certainly wasn't an opportunity to vet what he had to say. It was a courtesy just because he was a nice guy. But that's how I ended up at the metro office.
Can you talk a little bit about how you began building your business? So we had Jill Rudler here a few months back, and she talked about when she moved into Westerville, she didn't know anyone, right? And you come from Columbus, born and raised, and you probably know everyone. So I'm interested in the contrast there.
That's kind of a joke. People always say, our new sales manager or our assistant manager says, Michael, you know everybody. And I do know quite a few people. Our broker, Jerry White, says, you know everybody. And I do know a lot of people. And I've never I subscribe to Sean's teachings. He teaches great things. I've never had to implement Sean's teachings. I've never farmed an area. I've never relied upon my sphere. I rely upon my sphere of influence, but I don't do it as well as you teach it. I'm hopeful that I can kind of start that. I've just never had to do it. I've never had challenges. Every conversation I have is about real estate, and it doesn't have to be about you selling your house, but hopefully in a conversation that we have, it'll be about somebody that wants to sell real estate. One of my trips to Florida this year, I was on the plane with a guy. He took his family. It was he, his wife, and his 2 children. I sat next to he and his son. And it was a funny trip because who sits next to the same people coming and going? That's kind of predestined to this is designed to work. He was a minister. So we talked about a number of different things, but of course my focus is always real estate. And they currently live in a home in Lewis Center, but on the way down, it was like, well, we have this rental property that we'd certainly love to sell, and we weren't successful. We hired a lady who sold us our house in Lewis Center, but she wasn't too effective. They didn't sell the house. So I said, well, I'm going to the Florida Keys. Let me go play some tennis and while I'm away, this week I'll send you kind of a market snapshot. That's what I do, to see what the market's like. See if your house is sellable in under today's market conditions. So I sent it to them while I was gone, and on the way back, they were excited. They read the email while they were on the beach or wherever they were, and they said, "We're excited." I said, "I think I can get X number of dollars for your house." So that was in January, latter part of January, and they had a tenant in the property. So they said, "Our tenant is leaving, maybe February, maybe March." I said, "Well, let me know. Let's try to target 90 days before your tenant's going to potentially leave so that we can look at your house, get it ready, do whatever is necessary to potentially be ready to sell it." And this isn't a very wealthy family. So without rental income, they would have challenges. So I kind of looked at it from the standpoint, if I can't sell your house in 60 days, maybe this isn't a good opportunity. And we know that the market right now suggests that you should be able to sell something in 60 days, but it has everything to do with how much do you owe, what does your house look like, all of those variables. So we went into it with a very open mind, and I said, "I think you can get X." He said, "Well, if you can get that, sell it tomorrow. Just make it happen." He didn't care about making any money, and we know we're still in a phase of recovery, right? So real estate isn't where we necessarily want it to be for the people that have been in their homes, but certainly there's an opportunity. So we were able to sell his house. He probably made $15,000 or $20,000, but that came from me just sitting on an airplane, watching a movie on my way to enjoy some tennis. So that's where I think the bulk of my business opportunities come, not only from the inception, when I first started with real estate, but even today. Every conversation I have surrounds real estate in one way or another. And it's not even a real ask to say, can I have your business, which, I think Sean would oftentimes advocate for. But it's just, hey, this is what I do. If you have any interest and if I can be helpful, reach out. And I've been, again, very fortunate, I dare say blessed, that I get referrals. And over the weekend, even, a lady said, so-and-so referred me. And I don't say, well, I don't know so-and-so. I just say, thank you. But I don't even know some of the people that refer me. She said, well, in all fairness, you may not know her. I just told her I needed a realtor, and she reached out to somebody, and now we have, she told me to reach out to you. So just very fortunate, but not probably what most people experience. Most people experience hunger periods, difficulty generating business opportunities. I just feel really fortunate that I've been able to do what I've been able to do.
Very cool. So I know you meet with and speak with a lot of newer agents. I spoke with someone earlier, and what type of advice, what suggestions do you give to those agents who are just beginning their real estate career?
I don't know.
No, this is going to be so tough. Did you?
Right, that's a difficult question. I don't know that my advice to Brittany would be my advice to I had too much wine.
Missy.
Steven, I'm sorry. Or Jason. Everything would be different. I think you're all three different individuals, and my recommendation would be to look at what are your strong points. Or Heather in the background. We talked about her business last week and the new things that she's doing. I like to look at the potential that everybody has, and it's not always the same. Everybody has their own outlook. I have a great respect for what Steven does in the Short North. I admire him even. It's just he's so fortunate to be able to have a strong hold on that downtown market and the Short North market. But that may not be the same for somebody like Brittany or somebody like me even that sells. I've sold a home in Athens, Ohio, Springfield, Ohio, Akron, Ohio. And somebody might say, well, how do you do that? Are you even qualified? I think the qualification comes from the trust that the client has in me, my ability to effectively market the property. I'm not going to show it because I can't be there. But I think if you provide the limitations, obviously limited service brokerage is an allowable form of brokerage in Central Ohio, But I feel like if I can tell my client, if you want me, I can deliver the service, but this is the extent of it. And everybody goes into it with their eyes wide open. It's all fair. So again, I don't know that I would give any one person the same advice as another. My advice would come from having a conversation and seeing what is your niche market, what is your greatest opportunity, what is your greatest asset, and then me trying to hopefully help you unlock that. So I wish I could give you a better answer, but there's no standard answer that I would give to one person that I would give to all people.
Talk with us about your involvement. You're very involved. I know you're very involved with OAR, with some things with NAR locally. Can you talk about what that service work is like and why that's important to you?
Oh, it's a very thankless job. Let me start by saying that. Had probably a 2.5-hour meeting yesterday in anticipation of the new purchase contract that we will all eventually see. It's coming, so just get ready. But it's I think, an important task. And I don't encourage everybody to serve at maybe the same level that I do. Maybe you'll serve at a level beyond. Maybe you'll serve at a level just to participate. But I encourage everybody. This is our industry. If you don't participate at some level, you're doing yourself a disservice. That's the bottom line. It's just like they say, you know, if you're interested in politics, you have to vote. And quite frankly, everything that we do from a trade association standpoint, whether it's local in Columbus to national for NAR, your input can make a difference. You know, not Sarah. I had too much wine. John, what did you do here? I can't even come up with Heather. Heather is serving YPN and quite frankly, has the ear of a lot of high-level people. She has demonstrated a strong leadership quality, and it makes a difference. Everybody needs to participate. And I'm not going to do too many plugs here, but any level of participation, whether it's local, state, or national, it's needed, it's important, and it's almost like your obligation if you want to be a player in this industry. So I enjoy serving on standard forums locally. I've served on the board of directors, a host of committees. I don't need to go into that. Serve on the executive committee for OAR now. Serve on the diversity committee for the National Association of Realtors, and I serve as a federal political coordinator for probably the best congressional member in Congress, who literally tells her staff, if there's a real estate related issue, don't bring it to me until you've talked to Michael about it. And that's huge. It's our ability to affect a change on a national level for everything that affects what we do. And if you don't think that it makes a difference, you're sadly mistaken. You're sadly mistaken.
So we do this thing here where we take questions from our audience that get tweeted into to myself. Now, I have my phone live streaming from Facebook Live today as our SocialMLS page. So if you haven't shared that live feed, go ahead and share it. So we're going to take, you want some more wine? John? Yep. So we're going to take a couple live questions if we have any. Do we have any live questions? Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Michael, you have a good relationship with your daughter, and that's an important part of your life. You travel with her, you take vacations. Can you talk a little bit, over 20 years, you've started to figure out a balance with your family. There's a lot of real estate agents I don't think have. Thank you. Good question. Can you maybe just touch on that aspect of your life and how you find time in busy?
So that question came up yesterday, or that conversation came up yesterday with my best friend. And he said, Michael, you taught me, and then again, we've known each other since elementary school. He said, you taught me a work ethic that is beyond anything that I've ever learned anywhere else. And I'm going to tie in here in just a second. I like work, and this is something that our meeting today helped me. I don't want the wind taken out of me or, sucked out of me, whatever. I work constantly. I'm on vacation and I'm working. And it's not, I don't consider it a problem, but it might be a problem. It might be a problem because my daughter, Aaliyah, graduates Saturday. So 18 years old, an adult. And he said, Michael, my best friend, said, do you think that she understands how hard you work and how important that is? I said, unfortunately, she sees it, but I don't think she appreciates it. It would not be uncommon, as I'm sure all of us have experienced, it would not be uncommon, especially as she became the teenager, for us to be having a conversation in the car and the phone to ring. And she always saw it as an intrusion. So while I think my hard work is a really good example for her, I don't think that she's seen it as like a badge of honor, but more so a distraction from her. Other people will tell me that she sees the hard work that you do, and it will manifest itself in her life decisions, which I'm hopeful about. But I kind of feared that maybe I didn't. You know, I appreciate the fact that you've seen what I've done, and I've worked very hard to be a very good parent. But I don't know that I always met the mark, or at least from her expectation. I was always, and that was another thing that I always enjoyed about it. I could schedule my day around, again, she's 18 today, but I could go to her school, and I literally at one point, because I'm a single dad, I would get her off to school, right? And maybe even show up at the school during the day if I had, you know, activity in the area, and then be home when she got home. And this girl was like, you know, whatever she wanted for dinner, she told me before she went to school, and I came home and cooked it. I mean, it could include pies or cookies or anything, and I did it in a younger day when I had the patience and the time and the endurance to do something like that. But I think she had a pretty good lifestyle and life. And I think that people like you, so thank you for recognizing that, her teachers, everybody just said, Aaliyah, your dad is there. You know, I was the classroom dad. I was selling real estate. I was just anywhere and everywhere. So I think that, again, it wasn't the balance that I would ideally create because I think she didn't appreciate it or doesn't appreciate it, didn't appreciate it. But it was the best balance that I could create at the time. And it did always include time for her. You know, whether it was vacation, whether it was dinner time, whether it was getting her to school. But I think, unfortunately, as a kid, they take so much for granted. When you deliver at that level, like our clients do, but when you're delivering at that level, it's like just, well, that's what you're supposed to do. There's no appreciation for the fact that it's like I'm at a restaurant and I told you at 8 o'clock this morning that I wanted fried chicken and macaroni and cheese and mashed potatoes for dinner. Who does that? And I would literally go home, because we don't eat frozen food, we don't eat leftovers. It would be that I would cook, and maybe a sweet potato pie, you know, whatever it is that she wanted. So I'm proud that I was able to deliver that to her, proud that you, and excited that you recognize that. But unfortunately, I don't know that she does today at 18, but I hope sooner rather than later she does.
Thanks, Sean. Great question. We have any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Heather. Okay.
What do you see as your legacy? What do you see you want to leave behind for the next generation of agents or
You're jumping ahead of me, Heather.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I'm there yet. You know, we have a colleague, Barbara Locke, who received the 90th Distinguished Service Award. I don't anticipate ever being able to do that. I mean, that's just, I mean, they don't even make people like that today. I hope you can do it, but I mean, she's just amazing. And I think about her mom of 8, and I introduced you to her, Jason, probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I don't think you know who she was at the time, or maybe you did. But this is a lady that has been doing real estate, I don't know, Sean, how long? 30 years? I mean, a long time. And I remember when I first kind of had an encounter, and a good encounter, so I don't mean to preface it in a bad way, but I had shown one of Barbara Locke's listings, and she called me and said, "Hey, honey," she didn't really know me, but she said, "Hey, honey, what'd you think of that house, or what did your buyers think of that house?" And I thought, I don't even have time to do this. What are you doing calling me? Let me fill it out on the line or something. Why are you calling me? But she was able to do that at that level. You know what I mean? It didn't matter that she had sold a gazillion dollars worth of real estate or had $10 million buyers. She called me to ask me about a $300,000 or $400,000 house to say, what did I think and what did my client think? I don't know that I'll ever be able to be that for anybody. My hope is that among my colleagues, the people in this room, the people that see any level of service that I provide from an association standpoint, whether it's local, state, or national, recognize any input that I've had, any impact that I've had, and just my ability to be a part of steering a ship throughout the process. One thing that I'm really excited about is when I have clients, I like to refer to myself as the realtor for a family for life. So, there may be people that I sell them their first home, and their kids. This is really exciting, whether it's they see me on TV or see me on some kind of billboard advertising. They go to school and say, "That's my realtor." These kids are like in the 4th grade, 3rd grade, and to see them think of me like that, because I hopefully have that kind of impact on them, they're saying, and their parents come back and tell me, they had a show and tell day, and they talked about this billboard that they saw on their way to school and said that I saw my realtor on TV or on this billboard or whatever. So having that kind of a positive impact, I think, is something that, I don't know that I aspire to it, but I enjoy it, and glad that I can have that kind of impact on people.
Let's jump back to today, in your business today. What is the number one thing that bothers you the most about our industry today?
Does this go back to what we talked about?
Maybe, I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
I think that we're in a cyclical business. And I say that to say the more lucrative the real estate industry appears to be, the more people that are getting into it. And some are probably appropriate fits, some are probably not as appropriate. But I find one thing that's missing today, and again, I'm not picking on new people or old people, I'm just saying in general, professionalism. For the first time in 20 years, I had contemplated an ethics complaint. Not me receiving one, but certainly me filing one. And having been involved with our trade association and being a proponent for professional behavior and not necessarily punitive efforts to hurt people, but more so educational opportunities to make sure that people understand how to do the right thing, what the right thing is, et cetera. I struggled with that. I struggled with potentially filing an ethics complaint against a colleague. And I mean, the things that came to my mind were, what if this person, gets, I don't know what happens. Do you get your license suspended? Do you get some sort of privileges suspended? And I struggled with this. And I said, well, let me reach out to the person. And they didn't give me what I needed. They really didn't. They were very cavalier, very dismissive. And I think it's because of how busy we are. We're very busy. We're in a very active market. And their response to me was in line with that. And that wasn't acceptable to me. So I ask a lot of my colleagues that I do have respect for, what do you think? What do you think I should do here? And I think it was an overwhelming response. You need to file a complaint. But I had a huge challenge with doing that to somebody. So I made one last-ditch effort, reached out to the broker again, and finally made contact. They gave me what I needed to hear. It wasn't just an apology, but it was an acknowledgement that, yeah, Michael, this is a problem. We need to fix this. I don't accept this as a broker. If this is the kind of behavior that I can expect from this agent, you can know, without a doubt, this person's gone. That resonated with me. It said that the broker cared, and again, even in this busy, fast-paced environment, they were prepared to deal with it. So later that evening, after that conversation, I heard from the agent again, and very apologetic. And I felt not super good, but I felt better about it. Good enough that I said to myself, no need to file a complaint. The message is heard, and I don't think this guy's going to do this again. And then he said at the end of the conversation, do you mind if I keep your number and call you? And I thought, I've left an impact with this guy. And not that I need to be his point of contact, but the fact that he's willing to reach out again if he had a question, professional question, anything like that, I felt comfortable enough to say, yeah, mission accomplished. No need to file an ethics complaint. He gets it, and let's keep going.
Is there anything going on today in your professional, or even if you wanted to share in your personal world that that you're most that makes you the happiest? What do you enjoy doing the most right now?
Bless you.
I spent a long time crafting these questions, Michael.
I guess so. You couldn't have given me a heads up on this one. Ask it one more time. All this wine. Thanks, John.
What are you doing today, whether it's professionally or personally, that makes you the happiest?
I think the same thing that I did 20 years ago. Being able to service clients. I appreciate today being able to look at things with a different eye, different viewpoint. Again, I keep picking on Sean. We had this meeting today, and I left the meeting and talked to another colleague, and we kind of said some of the same things, and just a reassurance that I'm on the right path for a 20-year veteran. Somebody who potentially has a good outlook on where things are today. And I dare not say an exit strategy, because I never think of myself as retiring, because we're too young. I called us old earlier, but we're too young to even contemplate retirement. And what we do is a job that we can do this. I mean, we look at Barbara Locke. She's still selling real estate. She's not driving, but she's selling real estate.
Uber.
Right. We have alternatives. But I think that I appreciate where I am today. I'm not day one. I'm not, first or second year. I have a little bit of experience under my belt, and I feel like I'm in line with that. I don't feel like I'm doing the same things that I was doing year one. I'm doing things that are in line with, I think, a 20-year veteran. So I have time to contribute to our industry. I take the time to contribute to our industry. It's more than just earning a dollar. It's being able to give back. And my giving back used to be to agents when I worked in agent development within our company. But now it's more so contributing to our industry, helping to protect private property rights, helping to advocate for consumers on a local, state, and national level. So I enjoy every aspect of my job today. It just seems like it's almost a perfect progression of time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You're very blessed. Since it's fresh on your mind, you're meeting with Sean today. Where are you in 10 years, 20 years?
Well, we just met today. I don't know that I've really mapped all of that out.
You process it right here
it was
with
just like
all of
2
us.
hours ago.
Great friendly group to process this with.
What was that? Right now, right on the spot.
What's the fear based on what we talked about?
Sean, you're not supposed to. Come on.
You got that. Sit
And so, all kidding aside, I appreciate this. I'm looking at friends for the most part, and I appreciate this intimate audience to be able to say it, and I'll say it. You know, jumping in, you know, just being able to assess where are you and what are the next steps, and I'm prepared to jump in. So the conversation today was building a team, and so 10 years ago, I had a team, 15 years ago, I don't know, with Century 21. And a lot of the things that were challenges for me are less challenging today. But, and Jill Rudler, who I think you might have mentioned earlier, always told me, she said, Michael, your clients don't care about you. You know, they trust you and your decisions and your recommendations, but if it's not you, they'll be okay. I still struggle with that a little bit, but it's more real than ever now. Part of my struggle is being able to provide. So kind of what Sean's talking about. I have a full-time assistant that many of you know, and she's very, very good for me. She provides a great service, and I appreciate it tremendously. But in order for me to grow and continue on this path that I'm on of a 20-year veteran to look at it 5 or 10 years from now, it does not include me showing everybody a house. It doesn't include me doing everything that I've always done, but more so kind of picking and choosing the things that I do effectively and do well and being of service in that regard. So creating a team, if you will, or team concept that allows me to be a rainmaker and create opportunities for the team, but not micromanaging. And so I kind of came to a conclusion today, just jump in. Just jump into the deep end of the pool. You'll be able to do it. And, you know, there were reassuring words from the person presenting today. You're there. You can do it. But it was just a fear. Am I going to be able to provide for... You know, when you hire people, you're their life. You're a business owner. You know, if Amy doesn't sell enough of us agents, you know, you guys can't go home and feed the baby. And not only that, but your employees. So Amy, your work's cut out for you. Your baby will go hungry. It's all your fault if it doesn't work. But when you're a business owner, which we all are, on one level or another, when you're a business owner, you have a responsibility. And so I just feel very strongly about being able to deliver financially and otherwise for everybody. And I would call it a roadblock or a wall that while I know I can do it, I just haven't been courageous enough to knock the wall down and say, I'm going to do it. And so thank you, Sean. I'm going to do it. So next 10 years, I see myself, you know, people joke about going on vacation a lot, and I will. I will always go on vacation. I will always enjoy myself. I hope to continue to create a good lifestyle for my family. But that includes me building a system, a group, a team, if you will, that supports that and allows for growth and continued success.